Oh, hello, everybody. All right. Well, welcome. This is Eric Anderson, and once again, we're here at the offices of EDA Law here in Redlands, California. And what we're going to talk about today is, again, we're going to touch on some criminal law. We'll be dealing with more business law, particularly sin law, next week. So here's what we want to know. First of all, the title may have you surprised, as it says, Why Every Cop You Know is a Liar. And I know there are some police officer, law enforcement friends of mine who may be seeing this and thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Well, here's the deal. They are. Every cop you know is a liar. They just are, ladies and gentlemen. And let me give you a few examples. First of all, have you ever met an undercover cop? The very nature of being an undercover cop requires them to do what? Lie. To lie all the time. It's part of the job. It's part of the investigation. The other thing is when they're doing interrogations, you may see an officer who tells you, hey, your buddy in the other room told me that you did it. Or there's the, hey, we got your fingerprints, Paulie, there's nothing you can do about it. All of those are lies. And they are all legally acceptable investigative techniques. So why are cops liars? Well, because they're allowed to. And frankly, if you give them that tool, they're going to use it. Now, we're not talking about when a cop says, I saw a gun when he really didn't. We don't mean that. And we don't mean when an officer says, I saw him drop the bag of drugs when he really didn't. No, that's not the kind of lying we're talking about. What we are talking about is that that is allowed to be done inside of their investigative techniques. So the question is, if they're going to lie, then what should you do about it? Well, let's stick with a rule that should be pretty simple for all of you. First of all, if you don't know by now, if the police want to talk to you and you are a possible suspect, your answer is, I have nothing to say without the presence of my attorney. Now, this is important because some cops like to play a little bit of hardball. They may say things to you like, well, in that case, we're just going to arrest you for obstructing. Well, that's not obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice is not you exercising your right to not cooperate with the police. After all, it's their job to find the evidence, not yours. So your response again is, I have nothing to say without the presence of my attorney. Now, they may tell you, well, fine, then we'll just go talk about this downtown. Now, your first thought right then should not be being afraid to go downtown. Because if you go downtown and you don't say anything, guess what? Odds are they're going to let you go. Now, that is, of course, if they have nothing else on you. That's a whole nother story. But the bottom line is that you cannot hurt yourself by not talking to the police. Now, there are some cops out there who, of course, are going to tell you, well, you know, when someone cooperated with me, I tended to give them a break. Well, you need to remember a couple things. First of all, those breaks that police officers give you only go so far. Secondly, it's dependent upon what? Their gut instinct. And some cops, frankly, well, they're kind of like hammers. And I don't mean like they're stupid. I mean hammers in that to a hammer, the entire world is nothing but a nail. Several police officers are going to think the same way. They'll look at the evidence they think lies in with their theory that you've done it, or that lies with their theory that you haven't. Now, here's the thing to remember, though. None of those police officers are wearing ID badges that tell you how they think. It's not it at all. You have no way of knowing. So the only thing for you to do is to play it safe and not say a word. Now, the other aspect of lying they may try to do with you, of course, is this one. Look, I'm not the enemy here. I'm your friend. I just want to hear both sides of the story. Horsepucky. What they want to do is close the case. And to close the case, they need you to make statements. Because once you make that statement, then somebody like me, back when I was a prosecutor, is going to take the statement you made when you were surrounded by the police, when you were sitting there in an office and you were sweating and you hadn't thought about any of this stuff, and is going to turn around and take every word you said that you made without consideration and without thought, and is going to call you a liar. That's essentially how this works. So now here's the question. And this is especially important for some of you parents out there because you've taught your children that you want them to cooperate, that you want them to be good citizens in talking to the police. No. If your child is a suspect of any kind of crime, their answer should be the same. I have nothing to say without the presence of my attorney. I can tell you I know several children who know how to do that. And it's important because you also have to remember this. Your child has confidentiality rights with an attorney. There is no confidentiality rights, no privilege rights with you, the parent. You can be compelled to testify against your own child. So shut up. All right, so now, what have we learned? What we've learned very quickly is police officers are liars. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just the law allows them to use lying up to a certain extent to be able to get information. And if you give them those tools, they're going to have to use those tools. It's very simple. The other thing we've learned is the best thing for you to do is to shut up and call an attorney. Now, certain groups like YouTube aren't going to let me go ahead and tell you about our variety of things that we're doing at our office, but that's okay. You can check us out at www.edalaw.com if you have any further questions. Thank you. De salud.